Hey! Are you guys ready? I know it's been a while. I'm sorry. You know, I've been tied down to life. Haven't had time for myself, but now I do. Well, not really. But I do have some time to finally finish this book. And not only I'm going to finish it, I'm going to review it. I had literally no time to do this. And it's funny, I got halfway through this book and I had to stop because I was getting so busy. But I'm ready to knock this book out. Seriously. For those that know, this is called Catching Fire, and this is Suzanne Collins' second book in the series of the Hunger Games trilogy. Okay, and I'm going to be doing chapter 1. So, where we left off in the Hunger Games, basically Katniss just won the Hunger Games, and I was really excited, to find out, what's going on, what's going to happen, because we find out that even though Katniss won the Hunger Games, it doesn't matter, there's still going to be some trouble coming along the corner, there's still problems with the government not liking how she defied the Capitol in the last act where she swallowed the, she tried to swallow the berries, so there's still some stuff going on, because at first I was like, oh, the Hunger Games are over, now what, where could the story possibly go, you know what I'm saying? But it turns out this really gets exciting, and you guys are going to like this book, I swear. Pick up this book, read this book, watch the movie. You need to get into this if you aren't already. But let's start off. So, there's so many questions I had before I got into this book. I was like, what's going to happen with Katniss and Gale, Peeta? What is their life story going to be? What is Katniss going to do with the winnings and all these things? And what's the government going to do and all these things? So there's going to be a lot of questions answered and a lot of questions, unfortunately, disappointing answers. But we'll get into that. Let's start off. So it starts off in a time skip, and I think it's around 6 months, and since the Hunger Games, and we find out that Katniss is hunting in the woods. Now it's kind of weird because she won a bunch of money, so she really doesn't need to do that. So that's already something pretty interesting to point out, but I'll get into that later. And we find out that she's actually hunting for Gale, because Gale, is working in the coal mines now since he no longer has to worry about going into the Hunger Games. So he's working 12 hours a day in the coal mines. And, she's helping him out with, wait a minute, doesn't that seem strange to you? Didn't Katniss win, like, a lifetime's worth of money, And also, aren't they best friends? Yeah, they are. And wait, she's helping him hunt, helping him get food by hunting. Oh, that must be because she's not allowed to give money to people. Oh, no. It turns out that Gale is not accepting any money from Katniss. Really, Gale? Really? You had to disappoint me? Alright, that's pretty irrational, let me just say. And it kind of disappoints me with Gale. Because first of all, there's 3 reasons why that's stupid. First reason is, you're best friends. You were willing to take care of her family if she died. Now she's willing to do the same thing for you. What is the problem? You were willing to do that if you got into the Hunger Games. What is the problem there? You're best friends. Hello. Second of all, even if it's something like, oh, my pride as a man or something stupid like that, any kind of thing, guess what, buddy? Your family needs it more than, your pride. So, if you're willing to work 12 hours a day in the, in the coal mines, and you're willing to do all these things, for your family, but you're not willing to suck up your pride for a second, dude, how much do you care about your family really then? It's selfish. And the third reason is, whatever. I don't know. Make up your own reason. It's stupid. It's stupid, really. So it makes the question wonder what happened that he would just not like Katniss that much for him to not accept any money, because it must be a good reason, but, these guys are like teenagers, so you can't really expect much. So it doesn't really make sense. What's interesting, though, Katniss in the woods alone, Katniss right now, we're getting a real big glimpse of how she is, because, she's actually been really traumatized since the Hunger Games, and we really get to see a little bit on the inside of her head here, and I was really excited to see, how she is, because we left her off, she was pretty traumatized. One thing is, basically she has this feeling of not being able to feel like she's at home. It says, I really like this line here. She says that, hold on a second, I'll find it for you, don't worry. Okay. They said that, she barely, before she won the Hunger Games and had like plenty of money, she felt like, we barely scraped by, but she knew where she fit in. She knew where her place was. She knew what she had to do. She knew what whatever. And she seemed kind of secure compared to now, even though she has billions of dollars or whatever. But she really doesn't feel like she fits in. So it's kind of interesting, imagine, you have this whole life schedule down, you go to school, go to work, whatever, and then all of a sudden you just won the lottery and it's just like, oh, I have my whole life set for me, but I still don't feel home. It's interesting. It's pretty cool. But I think the real problem here is that she feels like she's hated by the authorities in the Capitol and whatever, and there's going to be a lot more trouble there. But it's pretty interesting that she actually felt more secure and safe in an environment where it really wasn't. Like, even though she's supposed to be safe, she's not. So that's an interesting contrast, I think. But let's go ahead and go back to how she's in the forest, she's in the woods, basically, hunting and stuff. And the electric fence comes back now. I made my predictions in the first book about how the electric fence would probably be significant later, how, the fact that it's never turned on means that's probably going to be turned on later, or Katniss is going to be careless one day and something bad's going to happen. So those are my two predictions. So we'll see if that happens. And another thing that's very interesting too is the meadow is capitalized. Interesting. Whenever an author capitalizes a certain thing that's usually not capitalized, pretty much means it's important. Now in the first book, I was analyzing Katniss's song to Rue, a tribute in the Hunger Games, and her song to Rue kind of went along the lines of deep in the meadow, under the willow, there's basically something in the meadow, and it seemed kind of like, oh, it's just a soothing song, but the song, came from over 75 years ago at the start of the Hunger Games. So, what's going on, What is up with that song? Maybe there's something in the meadow. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to hold on to that detail. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe she accidentally pressed, capital M. Who knows? But I'm going to point out that fact for now. So then, after she hunts and she's thinking about Gale and how she doesn't, whatever, she actually goes to her old house where she felt like that's where she started thinking about how, in this old house I feel more at home than this big ass house I live in, in the Victor village with Peeta, Haymitch, and her family. Now she kind of feels like she actually keeps coming back to her old house just to feel at home, which is pretty cool. I wonder if I would have done that if I, lived in the Seam. That's pretty interesting. And it's also pretty cool. Maybe it's like her little place to get away to. I like that she actually visits it. And she finds Buttercup, the little, I think its name is Buttercup. Yeah, the little, the cat that she hates so much is there too. So that's pretty cool that the cat actually favors the old environment too. Katniss seems to have a lot in common with people that she first hates, like Haymitch, the cat, and all these other things. But anyway, enough about that. So we need to see a new character, and this is Gale's mom, and her name is Hazel, and Katniss really respects her and all this stuff, and she really respects her because she looked for work after her husband died in the mine explosion, unlike Katniss's mother. But my theory on that is bullshit. My whole thing on this is shenanigans. Okay, first of all, even though Katniss's doesn't really mention it in the book itself actually mentions how Katniss's mom actually did a lot to contribute to District 12. First of all, she's basically the doctor. She makes money for curing the sick and healing people that have wounds. So to sit there and say that, oh yeah, my mom did nothing and she didn't support us, the hell she didn't. That's exactly what she did. Oh, what does Hazel's mom? What does Gale's mom do? She does laundry. What does Katniss's mom do? Oh, she cures people. What's a real legit job? I'm sorry. I just don't like how Katniss hates on her mom. But to Katniss's credit, she doesn't decide to hate on her too much. But we'll get into that later. I just like pointing that out. I hate how she's always like, yeah, she's a strong woman, but my mom is just such a, whatever. Anyway, enough about my opinions. And it's funny because she even said that she cured Hazel. Katniss's mom cured Hazel, but Katniss doesn't give her any credit or whatever. Of course. And we found out that Gale actually has 3 younger siblings: a 12-year-old named Rory, a 10-year-old named Vic, and a baby that's 4 years old named Posey, something like that. So basically, Katniss and Hazel talk, and Hazel kind of knows that Gale and Katniss are a thing, even though, they both kind of deny it, but not really. Gale's kind of straight up about it, but Katniss is pulling a Bella, and I don't really know if I like him, but anyway. And it's funny that she actually says she doesn't know what she feels about Peeta, which to me is screaming, oh, so you're just like Bella. I don't know what I feel about Jacob, but I do want to hang around him a lot, and I want to cuddle with him. It's just like with Peeta, it's the same shit. So she still, doesn't know how she feels about Peeta, and she doesn't know how she feels about Gale. But I'll get into the whole romance thing later. Later in the chapters, it gets a little bit better. But so she actually goes to the Hob after her visit with Hazel, and it's kind of interesting that she feels like she owes the people of the Hob, which is pretty cool that she actually is giving back to the community. She's actually wanting to give back with all the money she has. I really like that. I really like that Katniss is doing that. And so now we finally get to see the Peacekeepers, because remember, Katniss would trade game to the Peacekeepers, and we never really knew who they were. They were like no names, but now we actually get to see these Peacekeepers, and one is I guess the leader, and he is his name is Cray, and I guess he's basically the head Peacekeeper, and he's a big drunk apparently, and she actually, before I get on, she's actually buying a bunch of stuff in the Hob, but this is important, basically to kind of pay back. She just helps them with their business by paying a lot of money for all these things. She actually buys alcohol for Haymitch because he went through a withdrawal one time, because he didn't have enough alcohol or something stupid like that, which is pretty funny because I think that actually foreshadows that Katniss is going to or he's going to go through withdrawal or something like that again. That, or she may use that alcohol. Okay, never mind. But that's just interesting. Just pointing out things. But let me go ahead and rant about Katniss. Okay, first of all, I like Katniss right now. Katniss is getting better. She's okay. She's gone through a lot of hard stuff. I respect her as a character. She's developing. She's starting to overcome her rationalities. But then she does something and I'm just like, really? I want to slap her in the face. I want to slap every girl that does this. Okay, so another Peacekeeper comes along named Darius. And remember, Katniss is in a really depressing mood. She's sulking. And then Darius comes up. And let me just... See, it's probably Suzanne Collins, but I just hate the descriptions of people in this book, especially guys. It's really annoying. Okay, so let me read this. Excuse me for the horror voice, but I have to do it. As law enforcement go, he's one of my favorites. Never really throwing his weight around, so he doesn't abuse his authority. And he's usually good for a joke. He's probably in his 20s, and doesn't seem much older than I do. Something about his smile, his red hair that sticks out every which way, gives him a boyish quality. First of all, everything that Suzanne Collins describes in a man and these things is how much of a man they are, how much of the boy they are, what color their hair is. That's it. That is the end of the descriptions. How did she describe Gale? A man with black hair or brown hair. How did she describe Peeta? A man with gold ashy hair. How did she describe Cato? A monstrous boy. These descriptions suck, Suzanne Collins. I'm sorry. And not only that, I hate how Katniss is like, he says he's basically teasing her like, oh, you know, you look ugly, shouldn't you look better? Ha ha ha. And she's like, stop it, you. And he's like, yeah, I know, right? And then like she just starts giggling, and he starts to play with her hair, and she's like, oh, stop it. What the fuck is this shit? How are you flirting? How are you flirting right now? You know, what is wrong with you, Katniss? Are you really? I just don't understand. Like, what is it about this dude that you're just like, like all of a sudden with? Like, I don't know. I want to slap her. I'm sorry. I'm a little jealous. No, I'm just kidding. But it's just stupid. I don't know. That's just me. I just don't like pointless flirtation like that. Like, all he said was like, ho ho ho, shouldn't you look better? Ho ho ho. Like, it just seems like a douchebag. Anyway, maybe he's better. I don't know. So, that's just something I want to rant about. Don't hate him. And the reason why he said shouldn't you look better is because actually today is the day that the people from the Capitol are going to come, and they're going to go for a tour. You know, after 6 months they go for a tour. The victors do, or the victor usually does, and they just go around all the districts and basically say, yo, I won, I killed all your friends and family, haha, stuff like that. Not really, but and it's kind of interesting that they actually Katniss, even though this is happening, the reason why there's some interesting lines I wanted to point out that, you know, she says, you know, oh, you know, I don't want the next day to come, I don't want to, you know, face this day, because she really doesn't want to have to deal with this coming of going to all the districts and boasting how she killed all the things. She doesn't really want to do that. So, you know, there's a couple lines in here where she's like, oh, you know, I don't, you know, I look over there and I don't want day to come and stuff like that. So it's pretty interesting. I forgot to point them out, so you have to forgive me. But if I do, I'll make sure to mention them. But what's interesting is that actually Gale is now considered, this is off topic, but, well, it's a different topic. Gale is considered Katniss's cousin. That was like a lie that was made up, because if you think about it, you know, the Capitol people are going to go back and be like, oh, your friend's a guy? You know, like, you know, I don't know, you know, if you like PETA and you had this friend your whole life that's a guy, you know, so they had to make it her cousin or whatever. So after her visit with the Hob and all these things, she eventually makes her way to Haymitch's house to tell him, you know, to get ready for, you know, going out, you know, because the Capitol people are going to come. And it's kind of funny that she gets to Haymitch's house, and Haymitch is just a mess. Seriously, I feel sorry for Haymitch. Haymitch has gone through some serious shit, and you really see it here. His house is a complete trash of a mess. There's rats, you know, ugly, you know, it's just terrible. She even had to hold her breath, and she opened a window and like gasped for air from outside. Like, that's how bad it was. And he actually sleeps with a knife in the light. Like, he doesn't actually sleep in the dark, which I think is pretty scary. I'm really interested to see what happened to Haymitch in, you know, when he won. Anyway, so that's that. Haymitch, you know, is like, oh, hey, how's it going, Katniss? Not really. He actually just freaks out. He's all drunk, and, you know, he's just a mess all the time. I don't know how he's not dead. Seriously, like, how old is he? He should be dead by now, like alcohol poisoning or something like that. So then we eventually encounter PETA, and we haven't seen PETA in a while, and we don't know really how PETA and Katniss have gotten along, because Katniss was basically to PETA, oh, you know, that wasn't real love for me, and PETA was like, oh, I get it, and he's getting all mad and stuff. And so basically Katniss and PETA have not talked for like 6 month-ish, you know, time, you know, so they really haven't had a friendship or any relationship at all. So they're kind of formal with each other and stuff. And then she basically leaves the, you know, she leaves Haymitch's house, and then she goes to her own house, and she's, you know, going there, and then her mom's all weird, you know, she's like, oh, hi, how was your walk? And she's like, you know, I'm not walking, in her head. And then she realizes that there's something serious going on, and the Capitol people are there, and they lead her, Katniss, into the room, into a little study room, and who is it? President Snow. So that was pretty cool. pretty interesting that President Snow went to visit Katniss. So the first chapter here is basically to show this is, you know, pretty serious. Katniss is going to be involved in some pretty serious, you know, government issues, and the whole, it seems like all Panem is going to be focusing around Katniss. So really looking forward to this book. After I read the first chapter, I knew that this book was going to get a lot more interesting. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this long ass review once again. There's probably some things I missed out on, but hey, I tried my best. Okay, so that's it. Alright, have a good day.